Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast. Dave just went to grab a soda, which I was going to comment on that. I was going to interrupt him and say that I thought he was off sodas. So
well, to be fair, he can't live without it. So if he was to go without it, he'd probably just start like twitching in the middle of the episode, and that wouldn't be good for anybody.
So that's what's going on. Dave is getting a soda. When
right.
he comes
soda
back, let's make a big
air.
deal about it.
Yeah.
Yay! Dave's back in the soda.
So you're whole now? You're a complete person?
My allergies are really acting up the past few days, and my throat.
I've heard that Diet Pepsi is the cure for allergies.
My throat is killing me, so I just need to keep drinking since I don't have medicine to take. So yes.
And you're allergic to water.
I am allergic to water. Chlorine and
Like
water.
Right, you're like the aliens in Signs.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Water doesn't taste good.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It only tastes good like after you've been like working out or walking or something like where you sweat, and then it tastes great. But considering most of the day I'm not doing that, then I'm not drinking
but
water.
what does that tell you about your body? That water doesn't taste good to you?
Lettuce doesn't taste good, nor cucumbers, or most healthy things don't taste good.
Both of those are very high in water. I'm noticing a trend. Have you ever eaten a
cauliflower?
sponge?
Doesn't taste good.
How do you feel about watermelon?
That's all right. They have white watermelons.
Not a fan of watermelon.
I did.
Yeah.
You know
I
what
hear
I
they
like
make
about
more
this
money
show?
with
It's
the
so
watermelons.
it gets
Oh my god.
it's so useful and poignant right away. That's what I like about this show. There's no
All right, I'll get to something
wasted
before we
space
have
or
our
time.
something cool. This is wait. I would just like to point out that Logan says your body isn't 75% lettuce. Yeah. So
There's a lot of water in Diet Caffeine-Free Pepsi. I'll have you know, it's like the number one ingredient.
it's the number one ingredient before they put in the caramel flavoring and everything else.
All right.
So just in response to last week's episode with actually I don't even know if it was last week's episode because of all the shenanigans.
It might be like
Might
next
be
week's
next week's
episode.
episode.
That's entirely
The one
possible.
with Derek Murphy, where there was a little bit of discomfort and conflict when he was on, because we couldn't quite get behind the whole strategy of delivering half a book. And then after he was off, he was in the comments because we recorded 2 back to back. The last week's with Michael Anderle actually was recorded after the one with Derek. And so Derek was in the comments and he said, well, I just don't understand why there's friction against the idea because you guys have done serials before. And so we actually addressed that before we started recording. But since only a small audience heard that, I thought it was, worth revisiting. And sorry for everybody who's hearing this twice again. But the difference is when we recorded or when we published episodes, it was very clear that's what we were doing. We said it in the product description. We said it by the length of the book. We said it by the language we used with episodes and seasons. So it was we were clearly establishing reader expectations.
And the content was written that way.
Right. And the content from start to finish was meant to feel like an episode. It was never like, here's half a book. And the danger in the half a book model is that we don't want, as indies, we want to protect the ecosystem. And if people start distrusting permafree because, oh yeah, that's what you stuff is free when it's a half a book, right? It can erode it. So on one hand, yay for trying new things and all that. I just think that that's definitely a proceed with caution type of thing. So anyway, that's that.
There you go. Anything cool?
Yeah, but you guys can go first. I do have something.
I'm not going first.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I never think of these.
We
in
wait for you.
advance, and
Oh, all right.
that's why
You're our
they're so-
cheerleader.
right, that's why
I
they're
suggest, how about this? Going forward, we all think of them in advance and then we come
What?
prepared.
That's a wonderful suggestion.
Wait.
John. Let's
If
see
we
how
do
works
that,
out.
then we'll start having to think of show topics in advance before we get on the air.
Dude, go into Asana. The next 8 topics are laid out. All right, bitch? I said I take smarter artists seriously now, and I do, damn it. All right. So this seems personal, but it's actually more than that. So my son Ethan made the All-Star team. for baseball, which is really awesome. He's been wanting this for 3 years now. And as much as it sucks for our schedule because it's 6 days a week starting in June. Yeah,
what
6
is he,
days a week.
professional? Is
Yeah.
he paid?
And on the weekends, it's all day, like literally all day. So, and we have to drive to other cities for games.
I am
So-
making sure my kid never gets into sports.
At least you don't live somewhere
Or
where
is it
there's
good?
traffic.
Right. Well, at least there's no traffic on the weekends, so that's at least something. But so but I'm really, really excited for him because he's wanted this for so long, and he, I mean, you guys know this, but anybody listening, Ethan is just like the most generous soul. Like the kid is all heart. And he has never missed a practice, and he like resents other kids when they're like, they'll get first at bat or whatever, and they always get to play, even if because they're naturally good, they don't have to show up for practices, and he works really hard. He's a really hard worker. Anyway, and there's this kid on
That's
his
the first problem.
yeah. There's this one kid on his team who's just always giving him a hard time. And like a couple of weeks ago, he told Ethan that his teeth were bigger than his dick, which is like, I got to give it to him because that's kind of a good bag because he made fun of his teeth and his dick. But as his
Dave, you taking a note for future Sean jokes?
Well, his nose is bigger than her dick, but
that's true.
There you go.
So then as his father, I'm like, fuck that guy. And anyway, Ethan was the only one.
Wait, did you laugh when Ethan told you this?
Probably.
You
Yeah.
motherfucker.
I don't remember. But I did.
That kid's cool. I wish he was my son.
I did not say that for sure. I basically said fuck that kid in my way. But Ethan was the only one on his entire team to make All-Stars, which I think is fantastic. They really, and I love the email from the coach who he talked about the character of the team and how kids were chosen, and like Ethan got chose for his work ethic, and like he's going to become a better baseball player this summer because of it. And I am bringing this home real quick. So what I love about this is that they actually started out with the worst season ever. They lost their first 6 games in a row. And like there was no chemistry on the team. They just sucked. And I said, wow, this is the worst baseball team Ethan's ever been on, but he has the best coach. Like his coach is really good. His coach understands Ethan. And now they've won 8 in a row. So they lost 6 in a row, and now they've won 8 in a row. And their last game was against the best team. And they wiped the floor with them. And it was really, really awesome. And it's just like, I think there's something we can all take from that, because sometimes, we try things and they're just not there, but we put in the work. And if we have good coaches and we work with good people and we just always show up, eventually we can turn that tide and win 8 games in a row. So anyway, that's it. That's my something cool.
Okay. Well, I've got nothing cool this week, so we should just get on. All right.
Neither do I, Dave. It's
Wow,
okay.
you guys are terrible.
I just I'm still adjusting. My house is slightly less chaotic. Oh, okay. So this is not actually that cool.
Oh,
but
good.
In the spirit of that's interesting. Right. Okay. No, because it's all I got. But do I sound any different to you guys this week?
Sexy.
Anybody?
Did you get
Can
those
tell?
wall panels or whatever?
Right. Okay. So Audra's like, you just get some wall panels and stuff. I want to show you what I ended up with. Okay. So she's like, well, there's these little things you can get to put in the corner. And I'm thinking like, okay, whatever. So here's what's in my corner. Can you see that massive thing up there by my clock? It's like as big as a 1980s stereo speaker.
Oh, I like
And
your
then,
view.
over here are the 2 acoustic panels. So I actually have a third one over to the
See,
side.
Dave would never do what you
that's-
just did
that's
because someone could triangulate on your location now.
Right. Well, if you
Yeah,
got the shot
I've
out the
I've
window,
already
you could
got people
probably
on it.
figure it out by by the various trees.
I like the view though.
Plus, if you'd spin that direction, you'd see the several naked men bound up over in
Red
this
rope.
corner.
Of course.
Yeah. Yes. So are we? Dave has nothing. I barely had anything. That doesn't really count. You know what?
Wait, Dave, why don't you tell
what would be something really cool is why don't you tell people about all
Wait,
the
no, I want
great
to hear
book covers
to
you've
here's
seen
Dave
out.
something cool. Tell the miserable fuck of a story you told me yesterday. The one that prompted the story idea.
Oh, we're not talking about that on here. We should talk about that on Better Off Undead.
All right, fine.
It's not the place for that.
You're just like, we were having a great conversation, and then Dave just like pulled down his pants, squatted, and took a shit all over it.
Worst show ever, not Better Off Undead. I still can't get the title right.
That's okay. You can't show up for meetings either.
What use am I?
All right. So what Dave's serious something cool is he's going to tell us. I know he was telling me the other day he was going to go out and look at book covers, and I'm sure you found. I want to hear your report. I'm sure you found some fantastic indie book covers.
It's harder and harder, but these days,
yeah, it is.
But these days,
what if I wanted a book cover for my new book, Harder and Harder?
Fortunately, there is a place you can go other than your Google Drive. You can go to the folks at 99designs.com/SPP because they have tons of designers that can design the perfect cover for you, whether you want it to be harder. What's that?
I'm going to need a number, not tons. I don't need gross like tonnage. I need to know numbers.
89 zillion designers on staff, all waiting to. Yes,
at least it's in the
more
zillions.
than there are people on Earth. Because, as I said before, they get people from other planes of reality. So,
that's where I was going to go if you didn't. Just saying.
Anyway.
What would they do if Mother Ayahuasca walked in and wanted a book cover? And then if they were like, kind of dismissive, they'd be like, well, do you know who I am?
They would all know, and they would all bow to her. And she would serve them with more creativity and more genius book cover designs. And that is what you're going to 99designs.com/SPP for. You're going for their genius artists. They have people that will create the perfect book cover. You don't have to have a bad book cover. You really don't. And I was actually
what if you want a bad book cover? Will they do that?
Well, if you don't want to sell books, then go for it.
What if it's a thing you're trying to do to tap into the universal unconscious to get bad
That's
book
easy
cover?
enough to do. I mean, it's just
I've been here for 3 weeks and nobody has offered me ayahuasca. I'm just saying promises not
Somebody
delivered.
Wait, Logan wants to know if they'll make half a book cover.
I'm sure they would. And here's the thing. Somebody, I put a call out for questions for The Walking Dave on Facebook the other day, and somebody asked me, what are my pet peeves in indie publishing? And seriously, one of them was bad book covers. And I wasn't even making a joke. Like, I was talking about it. And like, bad book covers are, and it's weird because.
Was it hard not to laugh?
Yeah, and launch into an ad read because there are just so many people that don't realize how bad their book cover is, and I know that we've done our own covers in the past, and some of them might not have been great, but there are people that are blind to how bad their book covers are, and if your book isn't selling, that might be one of the first things you want to look at is the book cover. Was it professionally designed? If not, then you owe it to yourself. You owe it to readers. You owe it to Mother Ayahuasca to find the best book cover possible and go to 99designs.com/SPP where they will create a great book cover for you. It's easy. It's like a contest. You put your idea out there and a bunch of designers compete and you pick the ones that you want to go forward into the next round. And then you just pick the best one you want. You get your audience involved in everything.
So start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP, and you'll get the free Power Pack upgrade if you use that, and that will give you more designer time and attention. And this one was slightly better than the last one I heard, which was where we were. It was basically analyzing the Kennedy assassination.
Oh, I'd heard that. I heard that a couple days ago,
book
and I
covers.
was laughing pretty hard.
Too soon? No.
Yeah.
So that's that. Are we ready for ready for the topic?
Bring it on. It's only 20 minutes in.
Oh man. Okay, so
That's on schedule.
I titled
just so
this
you know.
one. I titled this one "The System We Use to Write and Sell Books," and basically, we told you a few episodes ago or a few episodes in the future, depending on which direction we moved with these episodes. Because I think we recorded 210, 211, 209, 212, and 214. Isn't
I'm lost.
I'm lost.
So I have no idea.
It's another plane of reality for me too.
So another plane of reality. But we mentioned the boot camp that we're going to be doing, which is June 13th through 17th. It's about 2 hours a day, 3 to 5 Eastern. And you don't have to attend live, although if you want to, we'll answer questions. And then the replays are up for 24 hours. So, you can still get
Do I
them.
have to attend live?
And
oh, you fuckers.
you have to attend live. And so there's that. But basically that's this is what we're gonna do. Like we've spent 4 years now tweaking and iterating and optimizing the systems that we use, and I think we've got what I feel is a pretty good one, from coming up with the idea for a book and creating the world, story shopping it, and then developing it, writing it, editing it, marketing it, and selling it. So we're going to do that in boot camp, and the link it's free, is sterlingandstone.net/bootcamp. And so we just want to talk about, like, we want to give you the mini version.
This is a little bit
today.
like when we launched Story Shop, and we wanted to do the whole sideways Story Shop thing, but we didn't want to. We were launching the Kickstarter, and we wanted to have that sideways series, but we didn't want to make this the Story Shop show. So we did a 9-episode, sideways series podcast, and then we did one episode that was, oh, bye, Dave. We did one episode that was about, this is kind of what we're going to cover in that sideways series. So today's episode is a little like that. We're going to have that whole separate boot camp, which is everything we're going to talk about today, just kind of, elongated. But today we'll cover kind of the meat and potatoes of what we're going to cover in the boot camp. And then also talk about a couple of things for Story Shop and kind of the method behind the madness of why we're doing a boot camp, because all of that kind of matters. So
how do you want to begin with that? Do you want to begin with some of the Story Shops, maybe a quick Story Shop update, and then move into the boot camp stuff?
No, we should probably hit boot camp and then talk Story Shop. I think we could just kind of talk about what's going to happen over the 5 days, kind of the breadth of what we're going to cover, what we're using as a case study, and kind of what the follow-up will be. Okay, does Blab hate Dave, or does Dave hate Blab?
Well, I think Dave's just trying to duck out. So we'll see. We'll see if he gets in here. But if you want to, first of all, go sign up. Like I said, it's free. It's sterlingandstone.net/bootcamp, but it will give you, you'll have the page and stuff. But yeah. So do you want to just kind of go through what we're gonna?
Yeah.
Do?
So the very first part is pre-optimization. So on day one, we're going to really talk about so there's two sides to this. There's the actual case study, and we'll be talking about invasion through all of that. This actually coincides nicely with Judgment will have been out for 1 week by the time we start our
Judgment is book
book
5 in that series.
And,
5 of
and
7.
we very Invasion is the most intentional thing we've ever written so far at Sterling and Stone. We started it last year as, okay, this is designed to be more commercial, because at that point we'd done a lot of stuff at Realm and Sands specifically that was pretty much just write whatever we want to write. And with Dave, the stuff I do there, it was all within the same framework. It really does appeal to the same reader, but even there, it's definitely, we're just telling the stories we want to tell. We're even though we're more genre specific compared to the genre agnostic behavior at Realm and Sands, it's still what both imprints have in common is writing whatever we kind of want to write at the time. And with Invasion, we were very intentional. We knew it would take, a year and a half to get through all 7 books, but we knew there'd be 7 books. We knew they'd be a series. We knew that they would be, sci-fi and kind of a high traffic, genre. The alien invasion isn't just high traffic. It's kind of evergreen. If you look back to the beginnings of sci-fi, War of the Worlds, there's always been alien invasion stories. So we figure there's no way that that's ever going to die. Like we could write that story now, and especially if we have a unique spin on it, it's still going to have value, years from now. So we really pre-optimized there. We spent a long time kind of deciding what we would write and how we would approach it, and doing a lot of tweaks that we normally do later on. Like when we finish the book, that's when we, optimize our product descriptions and our titles, and we get our cover. And this was the first project where we did all of that work ahead of time. So we actually had our cover completed before we finished the book. Actually, I don't know if it was before we started. I think we had just started when we got the cover. But the look of the ships on the cover, for example, informed the way we wrote the ships, because they look really cool on the cover. And so we were able to write that into the story. Same with our product description. All of that came before the outlining process even started.
Yeah, that you give the example of Invasion, and that is the case study. But the clearest example of this, and this is a little off the center of the topic, but Colonization is that third book in that series, and there's a weird thing in the desert that she just kind of stuck there, our cover designer. And so we were like, well, shit, let's incorporate that. And there were jets in the background too.
Oh,
and
we had
so
to write jets
make a
into
point
the story
to,
there.
Good Lord.
Yeah. And then we were talking to her. She was like, well, oh no, I could have changed that. And we said, no,
I'm going to get
roll.
with her and tell her to put really stupid shit in there, and not tell you all, and you'll have to work it into the story.
I love that you think, after knowing us as long as you have, that you think that's we're the guys who wrote Unicorn.
Yeah, was that supposed to be a threat?
Right. We did Downton Abbey with robots.
That just sounds like you were like, hey, I have a way to make your stories more awesome. That's not a threat, dude. Yeah. So the
I'm going to have her put Hitler in it. That's the mic drop.
There it is.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. I let you stew in your own painful silence. Right. So the first day will all be, really talking about that pre-optimization process and what that's like. And then we really get into story shopping, and story shop will be a little bit further along. We have an announcement coming. Well, actually, a kind of a semi cock tease of an announcement later in the episode.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a ball buster of an announcement, because we were talking about this beforehand, and it's one of those things where we can tell you how cool it's going to be without really telling you what it is.
But I don't even want to go there quite.
Kind of an announcement,
right? But
yeah, we won't even go there yet.
You're teasing the tease.
Yes, yes. We're like, have you seen that new trend where they have commercials for a trailer before the trailer starts?
That's bullshit.
Oh my God, that makes me so angry. Stop it. And I would also like, for anybody who can't have access to the comments right now, Dave just made up a new word, Hitlercorn. So there's that. So
like a unicorn.
Right, with a mustache. So then we're going to talk about story shopping and all the stuff that we normally talk about with casting and locations, but specific to Invasion, and then kind of how that process has evolved over time, because it has evolved quite a lot, and our mission is constantly, how do we write better stories faster? Then we get into the actual writing process, which there seems to be a kind of a wide spectrum in our audience as to some people who really want to talk writing craft, and a lot of people want us to talk about more the marketing stuff and the Maverick Ninja stuff that we try to figure out and do, because they've got the craft. But then we have a whole segment of our audience that really wants us to talk more about that, and this is a good time to kind of dive deep and talk about the actual process. And then we'll get into editing, specifically how we work with our editor, and what it is to look for, and how we want to shape those words over time. And then we get to the part that I'm actually really excited about, and that's the packaging. And I think this is the stuff that gets really missed by a lot of indie authors. Is it's not enough to finish your book and to get a really high quality draft and edit and the cover and the product description and all of that, but how do you package it? How do you go about selling it? How do you launch it? How do you speak to your list about it? How do you build buzz? How do you do all of that stuff? So there's definitely certain things that we're doing now that we weren't doing then, and then we can kind of dive deep into Invasion and talk about what we were doing over the last year, really, and we can talk specifically about the most current results, because at that point, Judgment will have been out for a week, and we'll have also had a BookBub for Invasion 2 weeks earlier that will goose the whole series.
I would weigh in, but I had to step away for a second, so I actually don't know where you are in this. So you'll have to continue unless Dave wants to.
Well, Dave probably doesn't.
I was responding to a comment on here.
Yeah, actually, so somebody said, you have so many properties, it's inevitable the fans will demand a multi-universe crossover. Robots writing unicorns, it can happen. All the big comic book companies are doing it. Yeah, we actually had one fan who gave us a rather long theory on how our worlds were all created or related. That was kind of interesting. But yeah,
see that.
Unicorn Apocalypse, when it gets written someday, is kind of the world that brings them all together. And yeah, Mauricio is in Unicorn Western at the very, very end, which Dave hates. But he'll never read it, so it's fine. He just knows of its existence. He doesn't know how it was done.
It's a guy named Mauricio.
There's so many Mauricios.
Yeah, no, it's not the same. There's no way.
It's a common name.
It's not the same guy.
So
yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of what we're going to cover. And I know we kind of had to rush through that all, but every single one of those, that's the 5-day period, and every single one of those will be, a kind of an in-depth study. And we have up to 2 hours blocked out. It will probably be around 90 minutes, but we really want to make sure that we have enough time to answer every question that comes. We're getting sent questions now based on some of the emails that Christine sent out announcing it. And we're compiling all of those questions so that we can answer them when we're live. And then, anybody who's in the room, obviously we can't answer questions if you're watching it on a replay. But as you're watching live, we want to be there for the community and just really answer all the questions we possibly can.
We didn't actually go into anything. So should we talk about the writing? And I'm the format's throwing me a little bit. So I guess just an example of some of the things in the writing section. So when you get to the day that's on writing, just to give you an idea of the sort of things that's here are a few of the trends from Invasion, as we were very particular about the specific style of writing that. It needed to be very page turny. And so a few of the things that we did to make a real point of this is we had throughout Invasion, Invasion just has the one main storyline, right? You stick with the characters. In subsequent books, I think because there are some. Okay, so we did this where we would have we were really, really hard on the cliffhangers at the end of the chapters, which is the sort of thing you do in certain genres if you want people turning pages. Obviously, if you're writing literary fiction, you aren't going to have a lot of cliffhangers at the end of chapters, and for most comedy or romance or something, you wouldn't do it that way. But we wanted a compelling read that people would get to the end and say, you kept me up all night. I had to read just one more chapter. So if anybody's read, the Da Vinci Code is my favorite example of this. I actually don't think that's a fantastic book, but oh my God, it's a page turner, because it's the chapters are a page long. And just one more.
I actually recorded a Smarter Artist episode earlier today that talks about page length or chapter length. And James Patterson is the example that I use there, because the question is, how many scenes should I have in a chapter? How long should my chapters be? And that really is not only genre dependent, it's writer dependent. What kind of experience are you trying to deliver to your reader? And that isn't a one size fits all solution. So some of our chapters have a couple of scenes going on. Some of them are one long scene. It just depends on how much you're trying to fit in there. But James Patterson almost religiously has one scene per chapter. That's it. So you could have a chapter that's 300, 400 words, and that's it. As long as he accomplishes what he set out to accomplish in that scene, that's it. Cut, go to the next chapter, which is why his books have like 114 chapters, because it's one scene per, where sometimes we'll have several different things accomplished in one chapter, but
we did that a lot in The Beam, which is sort of the opposite of the real page turniness. It's a more meditative.
Yeah, and we'll have several things that happen before we switch POVs, because it's not just that we're trying to accomplish one thing. It's that because of the shifting POVs and the sprawling cast of characters, we know that if you spend time with this character, we may not get back to them for, several scenes, maybe like not even till the next episode. So we have to make sure that really counts. And something like Invasion is just, it's a simpler narrative. There are fewer things going on. There are fewer characters.
And it's much more plot
right.
driven. It's all of our fiction is character driven, but the degree to which plot is driving it is different in each book. So I would say Da Vinci Code is an example of more toward the pure plot driven, narrative. And I've said this before, like, I didn't give a shit about any of the characters in Da Vinci Code. I was like, I understand what they're trying to do, and that's all I cared about was them solving this mystery and getting what they were going to do, but I didn't care about them at all. So we're always trying to create characters that you care about in one way, shape, or form. So we get criticisms on Invasion that are like, well, some of these characters are really reprehensible. Well, but you do have an opinion. You do care. You just don't like them. And then we're redeeming them later in the book. But the nature of that book is very like, we wanted to keep in mind what's happening, and there needs to be less internal monologue, and there needs to be more this than this than this. And I know that in, again, the third book in that series, Colonization, it has a slower build, and then there's a middle section where the chapters are about 200 words long, and they're just boom, 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 because you're following several different people, and it keeps shifting. Then this person advances a little bit, and this person advances, and it was one of those sorts of things. And that's the way you keep the pace moving in a book, is shorter sentences, shorter chapters, more action, and less.
Yeah, and even if a reader isn't actually reading faster, if they feel like they're reading faster, that will heighten their enjoyment of the book, especially if they're looking for, more of a thrill ride. So being aware of that, it really does frame how you're writing your stories. And we're doing this on a more global level now. So Invasion was our practice. Invasion was us sitting down and saying, can we pre-optimize a book? Can we write a book that's specific to an audience and just kind of hit a home run? And we were able to do it with that book. And so having proof of concept allowed us to go to the rest of the company and say, okay, how can we essentially write an Invasion for each of our imprints? And before we move on and do that, which is kind of our next big project, is to do this company wide. We wanted to sit down and kind of share the process of exactly what we did with Invasion with you guys. And that's what the bootcamp is all about.
So what are some of the other things that we looked at in the writing phase? I know that we were chopping chapters up. We were trying to keep the action simple.
Well, we had very strict fences in Invasion specifically. The narrative, if you haven't read Invasion or you don't know what the book is about, in short, we know that there's aliens on their way. So the invasion in the title actually doesn't happen in the book. It happens at the very end of the book when the aliens actually arrive. It's really a smaller scale story. I would draw the parallel to Signs rather than Independence Day. So it's really about one family, and you're with the family the whole entire time. And so they're getting from New York to a bunker they have in Colorado, where they're going to be safe, supposedly. But because we all know that these aliens are 6 days away, people are starting to panic. There's a lot of roadblocks and clearly a lot of obstacles in the way between New York and Colorado. So we really wanted to keep that kind of framed how we were going to write the story. We knew that the chapters would be basically broken down a little bit each day, and that the book would take place over 6 days. and there had to be major obstacles each day. And then when they got to the house, there had to be one final obstacle for them to overcome before they reached safety. And they had to reach the safety within, before the aliens got here. So you've got a lot of really classic thriller elements there. You've got an omnipresent danger. You've got a ticking clock. You've got alliances. Of course, within the family, there's bickering. There's, should we do this? Should we do that? There's two different sides of the family because the main character's ex-wife is coming from LA trying to meet them in Colorado. So whenever we wanted to kind of break the pace and say, all right, there's a lot going on here, with the main family, we could break away just for a quick chapter to give another little bit of perspective and then pull that out. We have a question here that says, I struggle with POV. When you're writing a new story, how do you guys decide whether to go first person or third person or vice versa? And actually, Dave answered that. But Dave says it all depends on the story and what works for it. I think there are more personal stories. First person is a stronger POV. With bigger, more plot-driven stories, I think you could go with third person. Of course, you can experiment and do it any way you want. Just my thoughts.
Well, there's an additional concern there, and it's what information are you going to get into the story? So if you are sticking with a first-person point of view, even more so than a third-person point of view where you follow one character, so like the Harry Potter books are 99% with Harry, and there are a few other chapters. But if you are doing first-person and you aren't doing like an alternating first-person, which some romance people do that, and others, then you can't have anything occur that isn't out of that person's line of sight. Not presently. Like you can have them discover it later and you discover that it did occur, but you are limiting your knowledge, which can be good, you just have to know. You just have to know what's occurring. But if you want to flip and say, okay, well, now we need some information over here, and my person can't know about it yet, but I want the reader to know for dramatic.
Yeah, it's just a why. I mean, Johnny just said that perfectly. You can't get away with dramatic irony in first person, and that's a really good tool to have. It does create a lot of tension, but you can never get as personal, right? You're never quite as much in the head. Now, being able to do it both ways, where you are third person, but then you italicize thoughts, I think that's a really great way to do it. You can kind of personalize, pick and choose in that way, but you just have to know why you're doing what you're doing. We do tend to think in, cinematic terms. So it makes sense for us to do third person because you think of it as a camera cut. Every time you change a POV, you're changing scenery essentially. And that can make for just a more robust story, or at least the kinds of stories that we like to tell.
I think also genre, sometimes I think YA does really well with first person.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think part of that is intentional because it allows the main audience, being teenagers, to really identify with the character. It's like a shortcut to identifying with a character a lot of times.
Romance too. Romance is
because readers want to be in the shoes of the character. That's why it's present tense.
So you really want to get you want to understand your genre. You want to understand your readers, and this is a lot of the pre-optimization stuff too. And there's things that we are going to do going forward that we haven't done in the past, like digging in and really reading other stuff in the genre. So we're just more steeped, more immersed, But we didn't do that for Invasion. With Invasion, it was mostly looking at what was selling, knowing what we wanted to write and how we wanted to write it, and really making sure our elements were there. The story shopping there was pretty straightforward. We had Invasion was born with a pitch that Dave and I gave to 47 North. At the same time, we pitched Monstrous and Z2134. They didn't take that pitch, but I always liked the pitch. And Dave didn't really he liked the idea, but didn't really want to write it because he didn't want to write a travel story, where characters are going from A to B so much. And what are you going to say, Dave?
Well, I didn't want to write this story before the invasion. Actually, too, I want to begin with the invasion. I didn't want to go through all that stuff. So that's the reason I didn't write it.
Yeah, so the very stuff that appealed to me about it
I'll just take all Dave's leftovers.
Right.
So.
Well, because I didn't want to write an invasion story with the aliens already invading. I wanted to get there, but I wanted to start with a very small personal story, especially considering, it's the original conception of Invasion was for the Amazon Serials program. So it was going to be a long running serial. So this was basically season 1 ending with the aliens' arrival, which made sense to me because you're really building the world there and you're establishing the characters. And it's what the end of Invasion is the end that was originally conceived as the series end or the season end. And it feels like that kind of cool cliffhanger. So that was there from the very beginning. And it was just a matter of how do we adapt this pre-existing idea to a 7-book series. And I think we did that well.
Well, and we also, it could have become a Dream Engine scenario. So this I won't go into the whole thing, but Dream Engine originally looked like it was going to have a serial ending where it just became a cliffhanger. And Invasion could have had that, but we added a major climactic moment where there's a fight. It's a gunfight. And defeating those foes and getting, through the gunfight was the climax. And then the cliffhanger that Sean's talking about works as a little teaser.
Yeah, there is closure there before we open the new wound. And that's really important. Whether you're writing, never give a reader half a book, right? You really have to give them closure before saying, okay, well, here's the next thing that we're going to do, because otherwise they could be disappointed.
But the other thing too is, and this deviates a little bit from the writing and stuff into more of the marketing and promotion, which comes later in the boot camp that we're doing, is that having, first of all, depending on genre and sort of pacing, so sci-fi but real page-turning sci-fi, you can get more aggressive with a cliffhanger if you've provided closure and you aren't going to piss people off. And there were people who didn't like the little twist at the end, but I don't remember seeing anybody saying, well, now you fucked us. You just had a cliffhanger for no reason. I didn't see any of that, which means it was done well. But the fact that there is, and it is a pretty strong cliffhanger. It is like, whoa, I want to know what happens next. The call to action in the back of Invasion is to get contact free if you join our mailing list. And that made for a really, really effective reader magnet to get people on the list, because the first book was so page turny, and they got to that end and they said, oh, I can get that one free. I'm going to join that list. So in a page turny genre, that can work very well.
Yeah. So basically the whole idea behind the boot camp is that, we feel that your intuition kind of knows what to write, and that it's your job as the writers to just kind of get out of the way and let that happen, but only to a point, because that's what we did for the first few years. And it was really rewarding creatively. Like, we had so much fun. like there was a tremendous amount of joy in our work. And just like, I don't know that I've ever had more pure fun than writing Unicorn Western. Like, that was just magical. There you go. But at some point you have to put more process behind it if you really start expecting to turn a dollar, because you can fix anything but a blank page, and knowing where to start and starting with, some actual idea about where you're going to go, why you're going there, and how you expect to make money on the art that you're creating will help you to kind of fence that in. And, I feel like we're pros at this point. We've been doing this for a long time. And I mean, relatively, right? It hasn't been a lifetime, but in self-publishing years, as we always say, we've been doing this a while. And, we're professionals because we're amateurs who didn't quit. And we got smarter and smarter, and we've really refined that. And we wanted to share that with you before kind of moving on to the next phase and doing this company wide. So yes, of course, there is some madness to the boot camp beyond the boot camp itself. We are going to be doing, like we've already said, we're going to be building a course out of this in a couple years. Well, not a couple years, a year from now. And yeah, Dave just got scared. Like, dude, you did not tell me it was going to take that long. Yeah. So it's
not working 2 years on anything.
Yeah, no, it's basically a year, and we'll be building that course with a tiny percentage of the people who are at the boot camp will kind of, I guess, graduate, so to speak, into this other thing that we're doing. And the offer will not apply to everybody, but it will apply to a tiny percentage of the people. And then we will build that course with them and refine it and release it a year later.
But the boot camp isn't like a lot of, like, you see a lot of webinars and you see a lot of like funnel starters out there where they give you like maybe 1/10 of what you're going, if even that 1/10 of what you're going to, a tease of what you're going to get. What we're offering is completely valuable in and of itself. It's a different sort of experience than the thing we're eventually going to build, really.
It's a totally different experience.
And it is something that most anybody else would charge for. And we've had a lot of people come to us like wanting to build shit and sell it, and we turned everybody down because we didn't want to do it that way. We want to do something that only we can do, and we want to provide value. So
yeah, and this is I want to save it for the boot camp what the actual offer is, but it's really awesome, and it's really special.
And it's different. It's not like anything that you've seen before.
No one listening would probably even be able to guess it. It's special, and we put a lot of thought into it. This is why we went to Chicago. I know we've been kind of vague about that, but we went to Chicago specifically to brainstorm this and to figure out what is the very best thing that we could give to our audience that's in between the boot camp and the final course. And the boot camp itself is, I mean, nothing held back. Like when we do that every day, for that day's lessons and then that day's questions, I mean, we will thoroughly break down the process of what we've done over the 7-book series. Johnny, we'll be writing the final book at that time, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll be in production of the final book. So there's a lot of totality that we could talk about, and we'll answer every question. And this is us just being as, blunt and transparent as we can be about this process. Again, as we prepare for phase 2, but there's also something really cool about this because, someone, I think it was Kathy, maybe in the comments I saw a few minutes ago, asked, I've lost track. Where are all your podcasts? Oh my God, I'm lost. And that's our fault. That's us sucking and having, a website that's just,
if only we had a website
right
coming.
And we do have a website coming, and it's being built by Seth and his partner Andrew, and it is going to be just amazing, and it's going to be really easy to navigate and find anything you need to find, and we're no longer going to confuse everybody, and it is going to be, Seth promises it's going to be the best indie author site in the world, and I believe him.
And not just appearance either. The idea is that all the functionality is baked in. That it is sort of our master wish list. So we talked to some people.
I'm just thinking it's funny that finally we have we'll have an actual website.
I know. No, it's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah, I've been ashamed to tell anybody.
Never
and
tell
give anybody
anybody
my business card. Here's
Yeah,
my card, but don't go there.
I don't even want to say the name of the company because they'll look it up. I'd rather they find the jewelry company.
But they'll find that jeweler. Yeah, basically they I mean, so it's Seth and Andrew are the developers. They're not just designers. So we're not just going to have a site that looks pretty. It's going to be like I started to say we went through a master punch list of sort of like what would be your ideal pie in the sky if your site could do anything, and we didn't really get that didn't at all, like that didn't occur. But basically now Seth is incorporating a lot of that. So all of the if I have a book and I put it up and there's how do you have it be able to sell direct and go to all the retailers and give you the actual button that looks like a buy button that's branded properly on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Kobo or anything like that. We need links to audio, and we need our podcasts need their own section, which most writers wouldn't have that. And there's a lot of like, what's some of the other back end I'm forgetting? Like,
well, everything for
we'll
direct
book delivery and all that stuff.
selling if you're a nonfiction author, like course stuff will be built in. But more than that, and more than that, it's about bringing the community together, giving us a place where, like, you remember in the old days when we had selfpublishing.com and you could comment after a show, right? There, we'll be bringing that back. It's a place where we could do a better job with education. We'll have a fantastic post every single week. Everything will be easy to find, and all of us together. And yes, Mark asked, will it be a template? It's way too early to talk about that, but yes, as with everything we do, we want to find a way to build something for us and then share it with the community, right? Which is exactly what we're doing with Story Shop. We're building it, this is the tool that we want, and then we share it with the community. And so on that note, with the website itself, it's not cheap. So this website,
No.
yeah, right. This, like, Dave actually had sticker shock. I told Dave how much it was going to cost a couple of days ago, and he was a little what the fuck about it. Johnny just.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was a good price.
No,
I thought it was expensive, but for what
it was bad. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, we invest a lot of money in this company that I don't think anybody has any idea about, and like just stuff like that. It's just like, if I was on my own, I would just not be doing any of this. And
it's not that he thinks. Yeah, it's not that he thinks Seth is ripping us off or
No,
anything.
not
It's
at
actually
all.
it's a good price. It's just that.
No, we've heard this price for just normal author portfolio websites
Yeah.
from people we know. Like, it's just their own little, and it doesn't have extra functionality. It's just a little portfolio.
Yeah, I'm
thing.
gonna
It's the
say
same price.
Johnny just bought a car this week, and there's not much difference between the two, and so like it's expensive. And here's the thing that I was gonna tease earlier. So there's two things going on. We told you last week about a module that we're gonna add to Story Shop, and clearly we'll be able to make money on that module.
And that would be, by last week, we're referring to episode number
Michael
209. Which I think was actually 3 shows ago on the feed. It
Oh
was
my God! Right.
the one with Michael where we
Okay,
talked about
yeah.
AI
So-
and book discoverability, all that stuff.
So, but then there's another module that we're building, and we're going to be able to talk about this in a couple of weeks, and we're going to have Seth on to talk about it. And I don't know, maybe you'll even hear that before this. Who knows? But Seth is going to come on in a couple of weeks to announce yet a third module for Story Shop. Story Shop has basically moved from software as a service to software as a platform. And
it's basically moved from help you plan your story to help you do everything that you would need to do end to end. I mean, this new piece, I'm actually,
don't say
I think
too
out of
much.
everything we're doing, I think I'm most excited about this. So again, like Sean just did the little cock tease thing, don't say too much, but this actually is the most exciting. And we'll get into this later. And I know that this is a ball buster. Like, I get it. It sucks. But that said, this is the thing this is going to change my day to day so much. And I'm just so eager for it. You guys are all going to love it. I wish I could
and
say
the point
more, but
is,
it's a
there's
big
no
deal.
way to make money on this new module that we're going to build with the I don't know what to call it publicly at this point, but let's call it the Michael Anderle module, the data module. There's money to be made there, and there's what you knew as Story Shop is now Story Shop Planner, and that's a $10 a month thing, and there's money to be made there. But the third thing that we're building is actually free, and if I'd say, I don't know, maybe half of our audience is interested in Story Shop Planner and 2/3 of our audience is interested in the data package. I would say 90%, if not more, of our audience would be interested in this new thing that we're going to build. But here's the thing. The new thing that we're going to build and the data module are going to cost a lot of money to build. And as is our website. And so like we only make so much money on our fiction. So the little secret thing that we have going on during the boot camp, that offer, that's money that we're going to make to not only make our company healthier, but to pour back into Smarter Artist and give you guys things like this module that we're building.
You guys are going to be so happy with this module.
And I
It
just
costs
want to
nothing. And it's
I just want to say,
your
I am the resident cynic here, and I've always been against info product motherfuckers. But it's a certain kind of info product. It's the kind of people that are selling hope and taking your money and running. that sort of thing. I've invested in a lot of stuff myself, like drawing tutorials and like Photoshop courses, and lynda.com is one of those things that I've used a lot because I believe in, educating myself. It's the sort of thing that when I see how much we're spending on these things, it makes me feel good not to be the motherfuckers that I fucking hate, because those people, they are putting the least amount of value, the least amount of content, in charging the most amount of money to
Right.
sell you hopes and fucking dreams. And we are spending a shit ton of money and giving away most of our best stuff for free. We've been doing it every week for free for 3 years now. So
4 years, dude. 4 years.
Jesus
man.
Christ. So
Cindy knows how long.
uh,
When you guys see how much, what a big deal this free thing is going to be, and just a little entrepreneurial tip or story that Dave's thing made me think of is, we know people who will make a lot of money in their business and then see how cheaply they can do
motherfucker.
everything else. How cheaply they
Right.
can do everything. It's not enough that I'm getting the cheapest thing I can possibly find on Odesk. I need
Yeah,
to
we know
hire
people
out
like
to the
this, and it's
cheapest company. Right, my labor costs are 6% of my billions of dollars, and I need to get it down to 4.
Cunts.
It's that sort of bullshit. Meanwhile, Sterling and Stone has always overspent. Like, there's been a lot where we spend way more than we make.
I'm
and then we
I'm
have
kind
to-
of pissed. I want to be sitting by pool and being all fancy rather than, living how I've always lived, you motherfuckers. Stop spending so much.
Dave. If you had $1 million, would you really be fancy? I don't know. that you
No,
would-
I wouldn't be fancy. I would just live more secluded. I would have
Yeah,
a better
that's-
fortress.
Well, we're not martyrs. I'm going to be fancy as shit. Like, once we're going here, but the idea is you have to feed the fire for a long time before you can step back and say,
Well,
okay,
right.
now
I
I'm gonna let
believe
it
that
run.
you can. I believe impact should come first. If you make impact, then the money will follow. But you have to be more concerned about the impact you leave in this world than the money you're going to make. I think, and if you do it right, then the money does come naturally. But it's a result of the impact, not the other way around. So anyway, all of this is to say that we want this boot camp to be really, really populated, and we want the offer that we do make to resonate with a small group. It's not competitive, so
And it will be a
it will be
small group.
it will be a
a
tiny
small
group of the whole. But we want as many people absorbing the boot camp as possible. So please, in the spirit of this community, share it. If you're in a Google group or a Facebook group, or really wherever you hang out with other writers, tell them about it. Get people on the boot camp. Not only, there's two things here. The more people we have who do take this offer, become part of building the course, the better the course is going to be, and the more we will have to pour into Story Shop development and the other things that we're building for you guys.
So there you go. So the bootcamp link, if you're not already signed up, again, because I'm a whore, is Sterling and Stone. But it's a whore for a free thing.
That's true.
So that's cool, which makes me an even classier whore. So it's sterlingandstone.net/bootcamp. Go there, sign up, tell your friends, and all that stuff. So I guess that's it. I guess that's it for this episode. And I guess we'll see you next time.
Thanks everyone.